So I'm coming in a little bit closer because I'm guessing you're feeling resentful, angry, frustrated. You're holding a grudge. Beautiful, feisty soul, my name is Casey Berard and I am a focus coach, and I have been there. I have tortured myself internally with stories, with pain from the past that I haven't been able to heal with another person. Forgiveness is powerful. I'd like to tell you a little bit about that, and I'd like to tell you about 6 areas where we can choose to forgive. I'm taking a deep breath. This is a hard topic. Forgiveness is a hard topic because people think that forgiving someone means they did an okay thing. Or forgiveness means that we're letting the person off the hook for how badly they behaved. A lot of people don't like the word forgiveness. I've had clients almost leave my office when I suggested that we could just forgive that. Especially when I'm doing mindfulness exercises, which is actually the only time I bring up forgiveness. Really, if we're suffering, if we're holding on to resentment, if we're holding on to contempt, if we're feeling angry, if we're feeling vengeful, it's because some circumstance has happened and we feel that we need to hold someone prisoner. That if we don't hold them prisoner, if we don't remember that issue or that scene, that we will be hurt or abused or neglected or taken advantage of again. And the truth is, and originally it was the Buddha who was quoted as saying this, but I've since read that it wasn't him, that not forgiving is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. And I know in my own personal experience and with the work that I do with folks that that is true, that forgiveness is a really, really freeing exercise. Now, it's not magical. It's not like we can just go, boom, yeah, I forgive you, woohoo, all is well. No, I'm actually suggesting that you take it to your mat. So as a yoga teacher, I call that sort of like sitting on your bum and being in yourself, in your cellular memory, and looking where all of that pain and all of that anger and resentment is, and reflecting back on who you were when that actual scenario happened. Okay, there are a couple areas where this can happen. It can happen with yourself. It can happen in your childhood. It can happen with your parents. It could happen, for example, with love being lost or relationships breaking up. It can happen with death. It can happen with others, and it can happen with God and the universe. If you've seen my other videos, you know I talk about the 5 givens and all the things that we can argue about being part of the human reality on this earth plane, or we can accept them and we can use it as a way to let go of the heavy burdens that are in our past and come back to the present moment. That's the biggest thing that forgiveness does. It's, if you can imagine this, because this is how I see it when I work with people. It's almost like people carry around these tractor trailers or big trucks of all the crap that's happened in relationships. And they're like, yep, if I don't truck it around, I'll forget that it happened and I'm just gonna, end up repeating the same problem. And I'm like, that's really a heavy burden to carry. And it's often easier to see it in other people than it is in ourselves. But I can certainly see it in other people. And I go, what would happen if you just unhooked that? Just unhook it. Remember why you put it in there, but unhook it. Let's just see how that feels. Let's just set down that burden. And then let's see if we can look at who you were when that burden, like in your heart of hearts, who you were when that burden got created. And can you have any compassion for who you were? And who, if there's another person involved or other beings involved, who they were at the time. Big, 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 big deep breath. Usually when I look back, I don't like who I was, and I often don't like who the other person was. But I do know that I was doing all that I could do at the time. And guess what? I give that person, but for my own sake, the gift of saying they were doing the best that they could do at the time. Might have been totally shitty. Like they might have been doing a really crappy job of life, of behavior, of action. But it doesn't mean it wasn't the best they could do with what was happening. And that's a discernible difference. Maybe with a little bit more information, maybe with more skill set, maybe with a little more time, they would have changed their actions. But they didn't do that. So I then have to decide, when I've held that space for all that perspective, I imagine flying up in a helicopter. When I've held the space for that perspective, I need to decide within me, do I want to carry this truck around, or do I want to let it go? Do I want to free myself, literally my cells feel lighter when I decide I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let that be in the past. I keep doing this because energetically, we actually want to leave it back there. And we want to create this openness in front of us. So that would be my dare to you. If you feel brave, you're welcome to write in the comments someone you need to forgive or an action you need to forgive. And hopefully all these feisty souls will respond and say, go for it, you can do it. Because it doesn't give anything to the other person. It doesn't mean your behavior towards them changes at all. You still can have healthy boundaries. I talk about assertive boundaries till the cows come home. The cows haven't come home, by the way. But so you can forgive someone and still have really clear assertive boundaries. You can still choose not to connect with them. Or you can forgive someone and create a new relationship and new space. So today's video is really about just exploring and creating more and more space in yourself and in your cells and in the world for peace in your life. I hope that helps. If you have more questions, if you find certain areas challenging, you might want to consider booking an appointment with me or with another coach who works on forgiveness. If it's really, really deep, you might want to consider going to psychotherapy and diving deeper into that challenge. Long story short, I do think forgiveness is something that brave, courageous, feisty souls need to look at, especially if you've done everything else and you've still got a chip on your shoulder. Now's the time to let it go. Today's the day, my friend. It's time to stop suffering and love your life. And I'm here to help. Hit subscribe if you would like to hear more spiritually inspiring videos and strategies that you can apply in your daily life. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.